shenanigans.
All right, Robbie Rock. You are talking about Brazil's COVID numbers increasing their deaths. Is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
This is some sad truth, and I'm not even going to relegate it to shenanigans because this is just bullshit at this point. Because of Jair Bolsonaro's cavalier attitude towards the virus, if you recall a little while back, I brought him because his claim to the people was that the government was not responsible if the COVID-19 vaccine turned them into crocodiles.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Right, the crocodile man. So, one of the more outlandish claims about the COVID-19 virus. But so, if we look at the numbers, the US is number one as far as COVID cases and deaths, but Brazil is number two, right behind you. Here's where Brazil, yeah, right, number two, but they could be number one because
They're
they
catching
don't
up.
have exactly, they don't have the medical infrastructure, and the vaccine drive is really, really late in the game. So on April, or actually for not April 11th, April 7th, sorry, Brazil registered 4,000 deaths in 24 hours. 4,000 COVID
What was the
deaths
most
in
the U.S. had?
24 hours.
I think we were close to
Oh,
that.
got me there, yeah, but I mean, Brazil doesn't have the population. It's
That's right.
yeah, so I mean, it's just there's the variant has been spreading through Brazil very quickly, and it's been a concern for the global population. Like I was saying, Jair Bolsonaro has consistently downplayed the severity of the virus and just things like calling it a little flu. He's rejected nationwide lockdown suggestions, saying that those measures would only make the poor poorer. He called state governors and mayors who imposed lockdowns tyrants. He cast doubts on the efficacy and safety of the jabs. And then he said that he wasn't going to get the virus. He joked that Pfizer would turn people into crocodiles.
Crocodiles.
He dismissed opportunities to purchase millions of vaccine doses. So, when I hear stuff like this, it reminds me of people like, say, Governor Ron DeSantis, Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, who just proposed very recently that a lot of grandparents are willing to sacrifice themselves for the cause. They're willing to die to save the economy. So, I mean, this is when you have a cavalier leader who doesn't listen to the science and doubles down on just opening everything up because that's what makes people warm and fuzzy, makes them feel good, but people are dying. This is some scary, scary stuff. Now, when you see what's happening in South America, do you see the parallels in American culture, in American politics? And how scary is that for you? Liz, you're itching. I love it.
Not really itching, but I mean, you talked about, the governor of Florida, DeSantis, but I went to the top, like we're talking about, the president of Brazil. He's basically the Brazilian Donald Trump at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the parallel is the same, the rhetoric is the same, the language is the same, the admonishing of people, the admonishment of science is the same. We had a president in this country who, from the beginning, denied that the coronavirus was real, who called it a hoax, who I believe it was the end of January, maybe early February, he said that it will weaken by April, not April
Yeah.
21, but April 22, before it even peaked. He said last year that it will weaken by April. Like, these are non-believers or people who, for their own personal agenda, because even though he was saying all of these things, he still made sure when he contracted COVID, he made sure to get the super drug
Monoclonal
to fix
antibody.
him and
Yep.
get his right. He definitely made sure to get himself and his family vaccinated a month ago, or everyone else could. But it's the same approach. They're not there to represent people. They're there to represent themselves and certain members of their party. and that's it. And so I feel bad for, the Brazilian citizens that have to deal with this nonsense. Because, Rob said that on, I can't remember the date that you gave, Rob, but you said that on one particular date there were like over 4,000 deaths.
Hmm.
That's reported deaths. That's the
Yeah.
deaths that have been reported. We know there are a lot of, uh,
For
areas, a lot of ghettos in Brazil that where
a
people
lot.
are
Yeah.
unaccounted for. And so I'm sure that number is a lot higher than what, the government is reporting at this point. And it's really sad. And it's not getting any better. It seems like the US is kind of trying to come out of it a little bit. Florida notwithstanding, Texas notwithstanding.
Florida and Texas, yeah.
But Brazil, the numbers just keep surging. Just keep surging. And you have a president who doesn't care.
Yeah.
Who doesn't care.
And that's the same thing we were dealing with here. I mean, and I truly believe, see, because when you look at the two countries that did the worst with the pandemic, it's the most narcissistic people on the planet, who were leading those countries. Because all they really care about is themselves. That's what narcissists do. So they really don't care about their country. So whatever happens, happens. So it's really no surprise to me that those two countries are the worst to deal with the pandemic. Um, if you look at the U.S., yes, we have been the highest, um, but we are turning that corner at this point, and that is thankful to Trump leaving. You know, I know they were already working on the vaccines, but the vaccine rollout has actually not been so bad. I mean, we're way ahead of even the timelines that Biden had suggested. So, um, we're even giving away vaccines. There's I think it was down in Mississippi or Tennessee. They have so many vaccines that they don't even have enough people making appointments at this point. So the rollout in the U.S. of the vaccines has been great, and I'm not sure it would have been the same if Trump had still been around. I think we'd be dealing with the same issues that Brazil is dealing with, the same issues we dealt with all of last year, where the surges were happening. We can't control certain states, so yes, like Lizzie said, notwithstanding Florida, Texas, and I think Georgia and a couple others.
Yeah.
Not with, let's just say the South in general. Notwithstanding those states, you know, we're actually doing better as a country with a better president in place. So I just feel for the people in Brazil. It's really sad that they're having to deal with the struggles we dealt with, all of last year. Um, Now they're still dealing with it, and there's nothing. And it's so sad that, like us, like I was feeling like we couldn't do anything to fix it. They can't do anything to fix it because the people at the
Wow.
top are the
Wow.
ones that make things happen. So,
From
And
my
it's a very
understanding, though,
good, John.
no, go ahead.
from my understanding, though, the president still opposes like lockdowns and things like that, but the government has actually started distributing vaccines in Brazil. And I know that that Brazil does take a liking to, or not a liking, but they can be likened to the United States in the way, like you said, the president is completely opposed to helping people during this pandemic. I think that there are more people in Brazil. I think there's 200 million in the country. I don't know how many people, in the state, but
I think it's 300
No,
million. It's
you
over 300 million, 360 million.
300, 350 million.
okay,
you have
I did not
about
know that.
360. Yeah.
Wow.
We have about 100
Okay,
million more.
so okay, but I
But no,
think
but
that
even you're right, Gianni. You're absolutely right in what you were saying. Like, even if you think about some of the rhetoric that President Trump used or former President Trump used during the debates when he was debating with, Joe Biden, he was, chiding Joe Biden because Joe Biden dared to wear a mask or because Joe Biden was in favor of lockdowns, because he was in favor of quarantines. And this particular president in Brazil, like you said, he's against those things too, just like Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
All right,
But luckily now the government's taken over and doing something about it in Brazil. So hopefully better results will come.
hopefully. Robbie, any final thoughts?
No, it's just some great conversation, and it is a shame what's happening in South America, and we need to keep eyes on all nations throughout this pandemic, because there's a lot of mistakes being made internationally and there's a lot of great things being done internationally. We all stand to learn from both examples so that we can implement better policy locally and nationally. So, yeah, I'm really hoping that things will turn around for the Brazilians soon, but it's the variant that's the big issue. And like Lizzie alluded to, when it gets into the favelas, they're overcrowded. There's no real medical care there, and it's perfect breeding ground for it.
Yeah.
But y'all know very quickly, y'all know I'm petty. Y'all know I'm petty. So I just want to, call out one of Neo and I's former classmates who believes that COVID is a hoax, who doesn't believe in wearing masks,
Oh,
who doesn't believe in the vaccine, and who I believe like a month ago was in Brazil and had the nerve to go down there and post on his or her, I'm not going to give away
oh,
their
you're not gonna
name
say
or
what it is?
gender,
Okay.
There.
but had the nerve to post, I'm here in Brazil. COVID ain't don't believe the hype. Everything's fine down here. There's no COVID, running around. It's not running rampant here. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe everything that the government is feeding you. I'm like, what government are you talking about? Brazil's government is feeding us what you're saying. They're denying it, which
I,
isn't true.
I don't know who. I didn't see that because I think I unfriended the person that we're talking about. So,
Oh my God.
so I'm not aware of all that.
You're like, they're not even in my circle. They
Yeah,
can't sit with us.
because there's a bunch of people that I unfriended just because I couldn't take it anymore. I was, I'm one of those people, and I try to be relatively neutral, and I like to listen to people's ideas. If they're different than mine, I love it because I can hear some different ideas. I can share my ideas, but at some point, I just couldn't take it anymore. It got too much, got to be too much. I started just dropping people because it was just some of it got to be ridiculous. Between the pandemic and Trump, I just like I can't do it.
Yeah.
What were you laughing at, Lizzie?
Mike Winter's comment.
Which one?
What did he say?
Yeah, he said he's been saying a lot. So which one?
He said, let me go back. He said, James the Tiger can have a seat. I think only people who went to school with this person knows what that means.
That's his nickname, James the Tiger. Horrible.
Now, I'll explain it to you after the show. I'll explain it to you
Okay.
after the show. You'll get a good laugh.
Let's see, Mike Winter. Brazilian race relations have been about 40 years behind the USA. Studied this in college. It is shocking. Let's see, narcissism is not good. This is from Jeanette Brown. Narcissism is not good for the species or the world. Jacqueline Robinson, those leaders don't see a certain segment of the population as human beings. When it became clear that a disproportionate amount were people of color, there was a hands-off approach to addressing it. I think that was similar here as well. They were clearly looking for a reason to justify intent to harm. Jason Insminger
Hi, Jason. Hi, Jay.
says some agenda. Nothing's changed for real. It's just spotlighted with the media. All right. That is it for that hot topic. Thank you, Robbie. Appreciate you.
Lies, shenanigans.
Ooh, put your
All right.
thinking caps on for this next one. Put your thinking caps on for this
Oh,
next
your
one.
antennas.
Yeah, I've got an interesting one.